Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ranger Rob Country Living Podcast. I actually ran the wrong intro, but that's okay. So, welcome to the show. Today is actually a very exciting show because we do have a guest. But before I introduce the guest, I just want to remind you that you can find Ranger Rob Country Living podcast on Spreaker. We're on iHeartRadio, also Spotify, and several other platforms. If you want to find us in if you have podcast software, you pretty much just type in what you're looking for. Hello, Shaw Lynn. Nice to meet you. And before we going further, I need to introduce our new guest. Now, this guest is actually in the same area that I am, and I'm very excited to have someone who's local. His name is Dale Wiley, and I'm going to bring him on right now. Hello, Dale. How are you?
Hi, Rob. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Very excited to have you on the show. I'm we're hoping that maybe I can make you a partner in crime. And I'm actually getting a little echo, so watch out with your, don't have your volume up too high.
Yeah, I'm getting a double feed on you, it sounds like.
So you're also in Oregon, and you're located in Crooked River Ranch, the same as me. And so right. It's kind of neat to have someone actually in the same neighborhood. I think other people I've done shows with have been in Texas or Arizona. So this is really rare to have somebody that actually knows the same area I do. So, and we do have one person that said hello, Shaw Lynn. Anyways, nice to meet you. If you have any questions or anything you want us to talk about, just put it in the comments and we'll make sure and address it. So,
nice to meet you.
And I'm still getting feedback from you. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time sorting that one out.
Do you have your volume up too high?
Okay. Is it coming from me?
It's okay. But you got to have it up high enough for you to hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get it. So, Dale and I just got together electronically last night, so we may be kind of tweaking the software a little bit till we get it the way we like it. And so on this show, we talk about homesteading, we talk about self-reliance and shortages, and the news that affects us as far as being self-reliant. And so that's kind of what I'm going to put Dale on edge here and see what kind of feedback I get from him, because one of the first things I wanted to kind of talk about with you was you and I have a lot in common as far as even age. And so our age is like, is it silly at our age to worry about prepping or survival or self-reliance? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I don't think it's silly. I think it's something we all have to do. You know, at our age, it just the dynamics of the whole situations are changed. How we go about it and what we actually do have to be carefully thought out. We've got to look at our limiting factors above everything else. And, you pretty much design your entire prep programs and ideas around those factors.
Yeah, it's like one of the things me and Sherry going is unless there's like Mount Hood, it's spilling ash all over our house. The last thing that Sherry and I want to do is bug out. It's like we're too old to bug out. So hopefully, if there's some reason that there's an emergency, hopefully we can stay in place. And that's kind of the plan for us. I don't know if that's what you've been thinking either.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this little hilltop over here in Central Oregon's my last stand, any way you look at it. And I've looked at all these different levels of HF, TF and all this and that to come up with what you did. And, all the buzzwords about bugging out and going here and going there is just it's fraught with logistical complications that younger people would have a hard time with, let alone, people in our age bracket with a little bit reduced physical capabilities and all. And so you just have to govern everything around that.
Yeah, I kind of picture myself as having a backpack on, and all it says on the back is "Shoot me, I got everything you want."
Well, pretty much, and I've got the backpacks, and all that. And it's like I'm not wearing this damn thing for very long because it's heavy, and making some pretty heavy weight reductions. And so you just think of this thing as, how far could I wear this? How effective could I be, and everything else? And you realize there's just so many different inputs and everything that you have to deal with, that you've got to consider all those and see where it puts you.
Definitely. So before I forget, you got a banner behind you, and I believe you're a photographer, aren't you?
Yes, we are. Thank you very much. There's High Desert Photography. We travel the Northwest the last few years and everything, camping out of our RV trailer and just enjoying the Northwest, and decided to start photographing it and chronicle a lot of stuff, do a lot of old abandoned cars and buildings and stuff like this. It's eventually going to be lost to the ravages of time. And, some of the landscape type things, the one over my shoulder is just a beautiful shot down at Summer Lake this last June and everything. We were down there. And so, we enjoy doing that, and make a little bit of money here and there and all that.
Do you guys have a website?
Yes, we do. HighDesertPhotography.com. Yeah, and you can go to the website. There's email contact addresses there and everything for us. We can email you our portfolios and samples of the work and everything. And we've got some great, nice images and everything. And if that appeals to somebody, great. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, one is sometimes it's hard to find the photos people are looking for, and so you start searching on the internet, and it's like you end up in these weird places. It's like, so I always like working with local folks. So
I appreciate that.
I'm sorry to get you off there. So
there's no lack of good work out there right now. There's some tremendously good
for sure
photographers out there, and so
do you do portraits or anything like that, or you just pretty much like landscape and
it's pretty much landscape and abandoned buildings, Western ranch life. Got a nice vintage auto car and truck section that we had a lot of fun rolling around through a junkyard down outside of Lakeview, dodging rattlesnakes and everything else. You get some good pictures there last year. So there is some adventure involved in it too.
If there was rattlesnakes there, I would have stayed at the fence and said, "You let me know when you're done."
Well, we were out at the Shirk Ranch outside of Adele earlier this year, and my wife looked at the floorboards of the house as she was walking in the door. Thought, "Oh, that looks like a nice pheasant feather there." And she looked down a little closer, and that was the tail end of a rattlesnake. So,
oh wow.
We paid pretty close attention out there. Beautiful area.
Definitely. Now you and I have been talking about what we're kind of doing about being more self-sufficient and things like that. And of course, you and I are not Rambos. We're not, bowing big knives and wearing bullets across our chest, and wearing camouflage. So we want to make sure that people understand when we talk about self-reliance or prepping and stuff like that, it's really common sense stuff. We're not talking radical. I think you and I were talking the other day, is like we watched a couple of shows like City Prepper and those guys, and they seem to be more theorist kind of people where they just have a theory that this is what it would be like. Here's another theory of what it would be like if it happens, if we all lost our electrical. And you and I are just like, let's talk about practical. Let's just kind of talk common sense, because none of us really know how things are going to play out if something got kind of tough. And maybe nothing will get tough at all. And that's cool. So my first question to you, and I think I'll pertain it to shortages and stuff. What kind of steps have you taken to take action as far as, okay, we know that we got a few things that could be short. There's a few things that could go short. Are you guys doing any extra things in your household to kind of be a little bit more on top of things in case water gets low, in case certain foods aren't available, like pastas or something? What are you guys doing in your household?
There's a number of things, and I think one of the first things you got to look at is there's a couple of different levels of situations that are going to puts you in a situation where you may have to be a lot more self-sufficient. And basically, it's kind of where we're in one of those levels right now, kind of the first level of a problem like that. But we still have intact power grids, and we still have intact water service for the most part and everything. And so, people should start being prepared for short chain food shortages, short chain fuel supplies, and by short chain, I mean those are a little bit more time sensitive types of things that basically it's 10 days, 14 days from the time a product makes it to the shelf, and could be even less on groceries. But we've seen compromises in there. So we've taken steps to make sure that we can be pretty self-sufficient on this hilltop up here right now for a good solid 6 months with an intact power grid and intact water delivery service. You have variations in either one of those things, and then you're moving to another level that you're going to have to look at. But we think we're there, and every now and then you'll read something or see something, and you'll realize they're not. There's a lot of people that are just absolutely going nuts on the internet as far as some of the different preppers and stuff like that. So you can see, I watch some of those, but I'm not too sworn by their fear tactics or anything like that. I pick the part that's kind of BS, and then I listen, and they got some good stuff, and there again, you just kind of adapt it back to your situation as to what you're going to need, where you're at right now, and everything. And then considering our age, we aren't going to be going down fighting it out over food or water or anything anywhere else. So it's kind of dependent upon what you got right now.
Yeah, to me, it's like buckle down, defend what we got.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's another key component of it as well. I don't think there's going to be huge problems that way, but that's got to be one element of anybody's preparations, that you've got the ability to preserve and defend that and everything, because everybody thinks that somebody's going to flip a light switch and things are going to change out here, but it's not going to be that way. It's going to be little bits at a time, a gradual degradation of logistics and everything else that we're kind of using as our inputs for our life, until one point we're going to say, wow, things really changed. They're really expensive, or they're not available, and it's like, yeah, it's been coming on for a while.
Yeah, it's going to kind of, every once in a while I'll do an interesting show, and I'll see how well you do on this one. But it's like, how would, if things were gotten really tough and you have a bunch of neighbors who didn't do anything to prepare, how would you handle the situation of sharing, knowing that it could cut your family short?
Well, I think that has to be a reasonable consideration for anybody when you're doing preparing like that. Is you've got to make sure that you covered your own needs, your protein needs, and everything else like that. And it's just like, I was in the construction business for a long time, and once you can go in and you can estimate quantities of materials on a project and everything else, but you better throw another 10 to 15% on top of that, because something's going to go wrong. You're going to need something or something like that. I don't want to be in a position that I couldn't refuse, to help somebody that truly needed the help and everything. And I think that's a reasonable expectation that all of us are going to encounter people in that situation. And we do have to render them some kind of assistance. And, and if you don't, then you're just that much farther ahead of the game.
Yep. We're the same way. It's like I pretty much prepped for me and Sherry, and now it's kind of icing on the cake. So we continue to prep, and we're able to do it faster now because we have a freeze dryer. And it's really with the attitude of knowing that I probably have to help some neighbors. And I do have a son on the ranch, so if he needed some help, and he's pretty much a redneck like his dad, but they don't have quite the income to really build up their self-reliance. And so mom and dad are kind of, we haven't really told them, but mom and dad are taking care of the kids too.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there again, you know, you just come up with one of the limiting factors that faces a lot of people and how you prep and everything is, do you have the income to be able to do that and to be able to come in, you know, at the level that you'd like to. And not everybody's going to do that, but you absolutely have to start somewhere on this thing.
Yeah.
And you know, and we're fairly fortunate. We're out here in the rural areas, and we're not in those compressed demographics of the inner
Yeah.
city. You know, where people, you know, have a refrigerator that's, you know, one of the apartment size refrigerators or something, and they're going to the store every 2 or 3 days for food. I see the same old boy walking down the street in Redmond. And everything every Saturday when I do some work in town there, he's walking to Fred Meyer with his little cart, you know, and he's up the creek, you know, if the small supply chain shortened, and he has no food storage, and he's older than us. He's going to not have an easy time getting through all the bandits and everything in a situation like that. So, you know, it's going to be something that people really have to work at and everything. But, you know, people, you start small. You know, what are my limitations? This week, I'm going to buy a little bit more of this. I'm going to buy a little bit more of that and everything. And you just keep doing it. You know, and people, you know, most people right now, as long as their fancy coffee stand is still open, serving people 15 cars deep, and their NFL pay-per-view is on and working when they get home, really don't give a whole lot of thought to, you know, what goes on besides that and everything. And that attitude's going to have to change on a lot of people. They're going to have to realize you know, nobody's coming to help them, no matter what they think or what they hear.
I know I keep running into people that, to me, I'll use the word short-sighted. They're living for the now. They're all, you know, they're so wrapped up in the now, and I can see how that happens when you got kids and you got school and you got work and everybody's working, and so the last thing they're thinking about is like, what if the power went out for a week, and um, I just think that's a real big thing that's going to have to change with a lot of Americans. And the other thing I've been actually seeing in reports lately is, and I'm not talking about like apocalyptic things, but it could be, they're really talking about more power shortages. There could be a fuel shortage or something that could set us back for a while. And those are the kind of things I really want to get people to just start thinking about is, you know, do you have a couple extra gas cans in the garage if you can do it? And you know, have a little extra food, and can you and last year when Texas had their trouble, and that's the kind of disasters I'm kind of talking about, is they lost their power grid for about a week in the wintertime. And there's a lady on the news going, "How do you heat water?" You know, because they're telling you to boil the water, you know, from the snow and stuff. And there's a lady on there, you're like, "I don't know how to boil water." It's like, are you kidding me? It's like that's the basics of basic, you know. So, you know, so we're just trying to enlighten people to, like, you know, just think ahead a little bit. You know, what are you going to do if you have to go to the bathroom? What are you going to do if you got to boil water? Can you at least do some of those little things? And even if you're only good for a week, at least it's something, you know. And because boy, you know, when you watch the what happened in Texas, and you look at the news reports that happened there, that's where you go realize a lot of people aren't thinking about this kind of stuff, because, you know, everybody's wrapped up in the now, which makes, you know, I can understand that it's easy to get wrapped up in that, but I mean, to totally ignore it and maybe not get educated a little bit and just do a little homework and just like, what areas should we kind of be a little bit more prepared for, so we don't have to suffer. You know?
Oh, I completely agree on that, Rob. I mean, I think it was 2020 May, the end of 2020, we had that little mesocyclone go through the area here that wound up around us. Yeah, I knew what it was, and it made my hair stand up pretty good, even though I'm out taking video of it and everything else. And, you know, to go over there, and our electricity, I think, up here was out for 24 hours. Okay, into May, no big deal type of thing. Weather was still okay, but, you know, that got me to looking at a lot of different things. And I thought, into May is one thing. You know, a month from now in the dead of winter is another thing. And I better have an alternative backup to heat my house. We don't have wood heat or anything like that. So, you know, we kind of went on from there. as you're into that preparing, you realize how much energy it takes to generate electricity at any
No
level.
kidding.
You know, and I got a couple freezers around here and everything. You know, I started adding up wattage draws and all this and that, and yeah, I needed to bulk up on generators and everything like that, because even, you know, I mean, we had some pretty cold temperatures here, and
Yep.
I don't want my house to freeze up. I don't want to freeze, you know, and so, you know, I'm in a situation where I have a fair amount of material, but I couldn't go more than about 2 weeks before I have to start worrying about raw energy sources, particularly, you know, gasoline for the generator is the main thing and everything.
Yeah.
So that's caused me to look, you know, at the cost of ways of generating power and everything else. Alternatively, it's not cheap by any means, but, you know, we certainly can't tolerate, you know, not having heat sources like that. And I think people are really not understanding just how much it does take to generate something like that. And, you know, nobody's coming. So when the power lines, those 150-foot towers were snapped over there in half. And I mean, I went over there and watched them put the things back together, and they did a really good job, but it took a tremendous amount of resources. And, you know, there's people out of power for a week or better. And that's, you know, as you mentioned, obviously the same way down there in Texas.
That's actually what enlightened me, because we were just getting ready to buy this house and come up here, and that big microstorm came through here, and which also made me realize that this house needed a new roof, because we lost a lot of shakes from that too. But that was really enlightening, because it's like, this house has no way to heat it, and we fixed that and bought a pellet stove and then put a generator backup on it. And then we realized, you know, the roof was not very good, so we replaced the roof. But that little micro storm that you're talking about really woke us up about, you know, this isn't Arizona, and it gets cold here. And so we, it was really one of the first things we did when we bought this place was to bring it up to having some of its own resources, or being more self-sufficient in case something like that happened again. So I was actually kind of grateful that we had that little bit of bad weather to kind of convince me that there's a few things I need to do here before we buy this place. And so that's what's motivated me to put the backup systems and electrical backup. And I bought 2 new generators and whole works. And this has been over a year and a half time now. So we didn't do it all at once. We were telling people, you know, spread it out. But, you know, we had a little bit of a nest egg too. So
yeah, no, it's I'm the same way. I mean, I've got sufficient standalone generators right now, but they're still not going to supply all the power, you know, that I need. And, you know, there again, you know, that age factor comes in, and you're going to be stuck here, you know, and, you know, so you know, people in various ages, you know, I mean, I've got some physical limitations. I'm not going to chop firewood. I've done enough of that stuff and everything. I guess you know, I could have some delivered, but, you know, there's just all this other stuff, you know. Yeah, you start breaking things down, and it's like, if I do this, then this takes effect, or this happens, and everything. And you know, I think instead of a couple of trips, we're probably looking at the diesel propane generator, 15,000 diesel water cooled, just for longevity and everything, set up here, because we're not going anywhere. We're dying on this hill up here and everything. And so I think at some point in time, you know, that's could be a requirement, you know, to effectively live. And so we'll probably do that. And it's interesting. You get along there, and it's just like, it just opens another door. You know, I mean, if you're going to freeze more food, well, guess what? You need a 1,500 watt generator for every freezer you've got. Otherwise, you better be smoking meats and everything else, you know. And so it's just, you know, it's a rabbit hole that can get really deep as you keep going down it.
Definitely. I forgot to mention that you don't have a lot of animals and stuff, but you said you had some chickens, and you said you had about 15 chickens. Is that correct?
Yeah, we got we got 13 chickens there. Chickens are one of the best sources of protein you can possibly come across, and
That's for
plus they
sure.
eat everything that you don't, and kind of like your pigs and everything else do like that. And so we've got them secured in their nice little 15 by 15 area there, and in my wife absolutely insists that these chickens live almost as comfortably as we do in the house and everything. And so, if you want to be a chicken, you want to live up here and everything. But we're getting about 7, 8 eggs a day, right
Well,
now. And
so how do you store all those eggs?
well, for right now, we keep storing them up here, and I'm kind of intrigued by your freeze dryer type of thing. Been doing quite a bit of look at that, but we've got extended family. We've got 3 sons here on the ranch close by, and so my wife will make quiches about every other week and everything, distribute them out through the family. Eggs, are a great protein extender and
Yeah.
everything. And I mean, you can mix a pretty decent tasting egg scrambles with other, protein sources in them that'll really help you extend out that, basic 1 pound of protein parameter per day per adult that, you have to look at when you're storing preps up and everything. And so, if you can extend that out, then you're a little bit better.
I've got at least 52 of these bags because we do 48 freeze dried eggs a week. So
Wow.
I know I've got almost a year's worth of eggs in a powdered form. So I feel kind of good that, I've got lots of other preps, but when it really comes down to it, I've got lots of eggs. I've got protein.
Well, right there, I mean, that's what it's all about and everything. And that's my goal. And I mean, coming out of some of the businesses I ran and everything, I'm kind of a spreadshirt nerd. And so I've got pounds of protein and all this entered into spreadsheets that tell me just how many days of, protein preps in general that we have. And there again, you think, wow, I got a lot here. Then you actually, kind of weigh it up or figure out what you got. And it's like divide that up and then go, okay, well, I got a little bit more to go here.
Yeah. It's like, here's a good example of what freeze dried eggs look like. And so
Right.
we keep this sample because when we have friends come over, they go, "Oh, I've got to taste that. I got to see if it's actually as good as they say it is." So we keep a jar here so we can take a couple of tablespoons and add water to it and make some scrambled eggs really quick. And people are just amazed. But just think, if you had 52 jars like this, how long would that last you? Because this is about 50 eggs.
Well, look at that. For the amount of money that you've got invested in the freeze dryer versus what it's produced you versus the money it costs and everything else. I mean, that's a pretty substantial cushion right there. I mean,
Yeah,
gotta
if you take,
gotta feel good.
yeah, if you look at that, and if you would have purchased that as freeze dried through Mountain House or whatever that place is called, you'd be starting to get really close to the number you spent on the freeze dryer. So you can do amazing things with a freeze dryer, but no, not everybody can afford that. But dehydrating is amazing. And in eggs, you can actually, store them in 5-gallon buckets in lime, and they'll actually keep for up to 8 months or something like that. So you can do quite amazing things with eggs. And what an affordable way to prep a little bit.
Oh, that number for what you've got, there is a really good. You look at that conversion ratio. How do I convert dollars into protein into the highest, most efficient way of protein possible, and everything. And we eat a lot of chicken. We do have our beef and everything else like that. And we source it all locally from ranchers around here in that area. And then, of course, having the chickens, is just kind of a backing source on that. And so the conversion process from raw to finished to consumable, what it takes as far as human energy inputs and everything else, plus just the fact, the color of those, when I see the color of those, that just kind of, people think dehydration, which is really just, hot air blanching your food, taking everything out of it. I mean, you're still, maintaining everything you need in there. And that's pretty obvious just by the color of the product alone.
Yeah, they say freeze drying only takes out about 3 to 5% of the nutrients from the food as opposed to other techniques. So it's really high conversion rate. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's an outstanding
we're really
conversion
happy with
ratio.
that. Let's see. This well, first of all, this year you doing all your holidays locally?
Oh yeah, we're not going. Well, we've got 2 kids over in the valley still, so probably right before there we'll go over and see them and the grandkids for a couple of days. Just don't, the valley is just not our thing anymore. If you haven't lived there, you may know or been there, you understand that.
Well,
and
we're from.
everything. But no, it's
during my days, I'm from Seattle area, so it's like I have no desire to go back up there for any reason whatsoever.
We get over there, and it's a couple of days, and it's like, oh, okay, we got to go home type of thing, or at least get to a different area. And plus the fact, fuel prices are going up, and everything, which is, if it's no biggie to us, that's not gonna be a no go decision or type of thing. But you take in the totality of the circumstances that that we're in and that our economy is in and everything. And we all know there's going to be a tipping point of some kind or multiple tipping points and everything. And so, until all this kind of gets stabilized, my feeling is no more than 2 hours away from home, and it has to be on this side of the mountains and everything for, where ease of getting to where we're located at.
Sorry, I'm trying to do some marketing at the same time here. It's like I don't want to look obvious, but it's obvious I was doing something.
Yeah, no problem.
Just like keep talking. So are you so kind of getting that same subject because of the way things are today, between mandates, between shortages, or what are you doing different? Anything different this year you're doing for the holidays that you don't normally do because of the situations?
What are you doing anything different this year you're doing?
Not really anything different. We're a pretty low key input family. We've got everybody that's over here. One of them will probably be working as a paramedic and everything. And so, yeah, nothing really. One of my former lives, I was a firefighter paramedic myself, and I took a lot of shifts on Christmas, and depending when you work the seniority ladder and everything like that. So no, we're not doing, anything else other than probably, keeping my ear out and my eyes open for, people that may need some kind of minor assistance or major assistance and everything. I know a lot of people in the area, and, if we find somebody that needs assistance, we're going to figure out a way to get them some help somehow.
Yeah. And you actually do a lot better in keeping up on the local activities here than I do. But right here on the Crooked River Ranch, we probably got, I'm just going to round it out to about 5,000 people. I don't know how many families that kind of breaks out to, but so we're kind of fortunate. The ranch has its own food bank and also has our own fire department. And we got a couple of restaurants even on this area. And so it's kind of it's not the perfect, but we actually got quite a community here if you really look at it. There's a lot of people here, and it doesn't mean everybody's kumbaya and holding hands. But, if we really all had to come together as a community, it might be surprising how well we do.
Yeah, it is an amazing, smaller community. It's really unique. Obviously, it's the only one of its kind in size in the state of Oregon. And, when you throw everything there, it's 12,000 acres with 5,000 residents, give or take. Our crime rate is extremely low. There's only 2 ways in or out of this area. That helps out a lot on this. We do have law enforcement officers that live out here. They're good. We've got a great fire department and everything like that. So that kind of stuff, we're pretty secure here. And like I said, I'm set up to stay on this hill for quite a long time. And earlier you mentioned, fuel and some fuel storage and everything else. And while I don't have tanks or anything. I do, I do maintain some single unit storage container type of things. And basically, there again, I think I've got a number for X number of trips to town for resupply, let's put it that way, and how
Yeah.
that would be, used and everything. And so there again, not knowing, I've seen the local fuel station down here out of fuel before, and being a former fuel truck and trailer driver, that's a real fragile supply chain there. It can be complicated by weather and any number of different inputs there, so I've got enough to get to town and back a few times in order to be able to, and of course, there again, I don't really need to go to town for quite a while. So
Yeah, same
that's
here.
fortunate.
So I'm going to put you on the spot now and find out. Okay, so as far as being more self-sufficient, getting ready for, dealing with shortages and stuff, are you actually planning to do more prepping or more uh, designing to make yourself more sufficient in the next, say, year?
Oh, absolutely. It's basically, I put my foot down on the throttle right now, and let's just go here and everything. And, if I'm, not going to have either the economics or the freedom or the geopolitical situation is going to keep me more confined to this area, then I'll take a suitable amount of those dollars that I would have spent traveling and, convert them over into the prep side. I think once you start doing it, you realize how important it is. And I mean, particularly, if we're looking at some hyperinflation or just, double digit types of inflation that are coming on here and everything, more is always better. And you're always kind of looking at that, seeing where your balance is and everything. And, right now, if I had a year's worth of everything solid, I'd feel good and everything. Yeah. I'm getting close and everything. I'm not there yet and everything, but I mean, that'd make me feel a lot better. That's not going to be, to solve all of the problems, because generally these economic situations that are degrading like ours is, it's going to take a lot longer. I mean, it took us a lot longer than a year to get here. So it's going to take us even longer to get, unscrewed up here and everything. And so at some point in time, I'll still be, forced into procuring. So the longer I can stall that off, and hopefully we find some baseline out here at some point in time that's not, I'm just an old man, and I need to listen. I listen to myself sometimes, and I sound like an old man, but it's just this little voice in the back of my head that keeps telling me, man, just, something ain't right yet. Keep going.
So have you and your wife, I assume you're married, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. 34 years.
Sometimes I got to quit assuming, that's the problem with those old people. We think everybody's a family of four and have, 2-car garage and all that stuff. And you're like, okay, that's not true anymore. So have you found you and your wife to be doing a little bit more preserving or storage of food more, doing more freezing, more anything, canning, anything, just because of what's been going on lately?
Yeah, we haven't been doing probably as much canning or as much, definitely a lot more freezing of stuff. And I mean, we're coming off of an area where we lived over in the valley, and we had the farm ground there. We had a small mini orchard and everything, and I thought I had to feed the world at times over there. And so, and there again, you look at that and it's like, we can grow this. And it's kind of like our hemp growers over here in Oregon. We can grow it, but what do we do with it after we grow it? Type of thing. We got to process this and convert this into a storage, a storable type of a product. And so what's the best way when we do that takes, the appropriate amount of inputs that we're capable of putting into it at any given time. And so I think as we've aged a little bit, we've kind of changed how we do that and everything. And, we like to access the fresh fruits and everything and vegetables. My diet, for health reasons, I don't consume a lot of that type of stuff and everything, but we still have it around. And there again, you've got that food dehydrator thing that I think is probably, I looked at one the other day online. That's going to be, researched, and that'll probably be in our future here as well. And around here, if you don't grow it yourself, you're probably not going to be able to source suitable quantities of the raw product, the raw vegetable, unless you know somebody, because we just don't have that type of, agricultural economy around here. We'd have to go out. I mean, I could get a crate of apples if I want to run up the Hood River or something like that, and everything. So we look at these inputs and what we need to do, so we make sure we can store our proteins. Then we make sure we can preserve our proteins, and that's where the freezer and then the backup generator and that type of stuff comes into line. I used to hunt a fair amount, not doing much of that anymore.
I don't do that anymore either.
Don't tromp around the woods or anything else, like that. And it's just like, and people say, well, it saves you. Well, for the monies that are involved and everything, I can purchase that from a local grower at a good enough price that, puts the product in our pantry, puts a little bit of money in that grower's pocket as well, because that's what he's doing. And we'll be just fine. So there again, what are our limiting factors? What can we preserve here, and everything? And what can we do? What's reasonable for us in our situation and everything? And so we've done it all. We've squeezed apples. We've made canned apple pie filling. We've canned everything you could stick in a can and everything. And I know back in 2013, I decided we should have a you-pick vegetable farm and everything, which we had our property over there. And so I planted about 2 acres out into vegetables. It was kind of therapy for me because I was coming off a pretty serious illness a couple of years before and everything. And it was a lot of fun. I had a great time. Only people are not interested in pick their own materials anymore. They want to come out to your farm, walk up to your nice little stand and pay the price and drive away with it. And so, from that type of a standpoint, that whole thing was just a miserable failure, money-wise anyway. We did get some people to come out, and then at the end of the season, we were able to donate a tremendous amount of food to people and through churches and food banks and everything else like that. And then I took the disc out there and harvested it one final time in November and everything. So that was kind of an eye opener there as to what it actually took, seeing the people that were coming out. And, we had the orchard and all this other stuff. And it's just, like I kind of use the analogy of the hemp growers, and for, your viewers and everything from around the area. Everybody around here thought hemp was going to pay the mortgage off on their farms. And so they went out and they planted, just boatloads of hemp out here with absolutely no thought as the logistics and the process involved to get that crop from the field to the barn, to the dry, to processing, to sales. And they just lost their butts on the whole thing, and a bunch of us old guys that got beat up in the nursery business a while back, we're just kind of going, yeah, we saw that one coming and everything. Yep. And I guess if, leaving 30-40% of your crop in the field is fine, you make enough money, that's fine. But, from various numbers of standpoints, it don't make any sense. And the majority of those fields are back in hay this year anyway.
I've noticed that. It's like I moved here, I was going, wow, look at all these hemp places. And then 1 year later, some of those same places didn't even plant. So I was like, okay, that must not have been a very good business.
Yeah, we saw that, and me from an agricultural background and everything, I saw a hemp field. Guys got 2 combines out there. There's 8 people running around there doing various things, and I thought, man, that product must be worth a lot of money if those are the kind of inputs you have to use to get it out. And as it turns out, none of them were. And those are the fields that were back, in hay again and everything. And so seeing that coming, agriculturally, there's some people got into it big time the first year, made a bunch of money and got out, type of thing. Yeah. But, there again, it's just, you got to look at these things and, and basically in any farm situation, and not so much in this area, but over in your more breadbasket type places like the Willamette Valley, neighbor farm the ground next to me, he says, I grow 6 or 7 crops. He says, I hit home runs on 2 of them. He says 3, he says, I do okay on, and two, I absolutely lose my butt on every time and everything. And so those guys are fortunate to have a wide mix like that. And there again, decentralization of food processing over in those agricultural areas has contributed to a lot of reductions in vegetable crops over there. And you're seeing economies of scale and all this other stuff trying to turn around. And so, shortages of vegetables and that type of stuff through supermarket distribution change is entirely feasible. And I would expect to see that this year.
Yeah. So with this year, have you, and I'll give you examples here, but have you found yourself thinking about or doing or learning new skills? For example, you've seen me this year on video. We learned how to do hydroponics. We're constantly trying new things we've never done before, and kind of doing it with no fear, even though there's failures and stuff. So this year, at least in the next year, is there some new? And I want to say skills. I want to say hobbies or whatever. But are you finding? And I'm talking about our age bracket. Are you finding yourselves going? I don't care what age I am. I think I want to learn something like. I'll let you fill in the blank.
I think I want to learn something.
I think that's extremely applicable to a lot of people nowadays and everything. You know what I mean? And this photography thing. I mean, I've always taken pictures. I documented a lot of jobs and everything. And this whole video production thing and everything else, was just 10 years ago. I mean, look where we've come in 10 years and everything. And probably back in 2008, 2009, man, I thought I was pretty cool. I had one of those flip video cameras. It's still in my drawer around here somewhere and everything. I'm out videotaping our processes, on the athletics and the golf course fields and everything else. And I thought, this is the way it's going to go. We're going to make a bunch of videos. They're bad videos and everything, but look where we're at now. So as far as learning a new skill, the photography's there. I look at some of my pictures now and I'm like, those are horrible and everything. And about every 3 or 4 months, my standards keep going up on what I want to see. And I go through and I eliminate a bunch of the product that's out there and everything and just contact on those. And there again, I've thought, I could go out and get a job if I needed to. And I thought, who am I kidding? This old body ain't gonna cut that. So I better figure out something that, I can do. And so, just in the last conversations I've had with you, and I mean, basically, I could start a YouTube channel or come up with some of these other things. And I mean, I look at everything that's out there, and it doesn't matter what my opinion of business is or anything else anymore, because I haven't been in it for 10 years and it's a mess anyway. And nobody wants to hear what an old boomer has got to say about running their business and everything else. And what I have done is done a pretty good job of recovering from, some pretty nasty ass kickings in my day and everything. And, so, I mean, if I can come up with, helping people out, and I look at this thing as showing people how to prep, on a small scale basis and all the different factors that are involved. And I mean, there's adaptations. There's no one size fits all for anybody here. No. So yeah, I'm trying to kind of reinvent myself into something that I know I can do with my inputs that I have, and hopefully at some point in time, be able to monetize it on a small basis or something like that. But, the day we stop learning and the day we stop trying, is the day you just may as well, roll it up and everything, because, people are living longer, their experiences, I know a lot of the younger crowd thinks, oh, that guy's full of BS, and it's like, I tell them, I says, we're coming into an economic time that you people have never even come close to seeing. You weren't around in 1970. You weren't around, in the late 70s and the early 80s and watched the bloodbath that was 1979 through 1985. And most of you was still just drinking beer and running around raising hell when 2008 came along and everything. So your context of what we're about to go through you have no context and everything. And so, that's, the research is out there, do it, and everything else, and that's their option. A lot of them will do it, and a lot of them won't, and everything. And so there's such information overload out here with everything that's available for you. Your BS filter has to be pretty robust on a lot of this stuff. But, I think some people are going to have some rude awakenings coming up here real soon.
I think that's my biggest worry too, is like, I agree with you. Like, I'm out of business too. I mean, I came from business, all that stuff, and I had successes and things like that. But, even some of the kind of businesses and the processes we use to make those businesses successful don't work today, because now the new millennial kind of generation is more of, what can you do for me if I work for you? And it's like, it wasn't like that in our point. So business is a little different, but I agree with you that what I try to do, at least on my scale, is finding a way to kind of brace people for things that could be coming that they've never seen before. And I'm just like you, I've seen all those same things. And so I've seen financial ruin. I've seen starting from nothing and building back up again, having everything I ever wanted and losing a lot of things. This is all in 60 years, and how to not go into depression and stress and all those things, and how do you rebuild yourself when you go through a recession, or maybe you got wiped out on a house you bought or something like that. We've seen it all. And so it's so hard to get past the age thing and find young people that they're about to go through all this, and they could psychologically really be messed up. And it seems like they're more sensitive than they used to be. And so I'm worried about the suicides. I'm worried about the stress and all these things that these guys are going to go through, because they don't seem to handle it as well as I think they're going to do, and I think they can do. And so, but if they have the right mindset, if they have the right, knowing that people have been through it before and have come out of it, and sometimes come out of it even better, that would be the message that I want to do at my age, is to try to get, I don't care if it's one family or one or 100 people, if I can get them through hard times, knowing telling stories that you and I have been through, then to me that seems like success.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, my take on that whole thing too is, I've stepped in big piles of it just about any way you could possibly imagine. I have made every stupid mistake in business and life that anybody could possibly make. And I mean, you start off, there'd be a list of those a mile long. I tell my kids all that stuff. I tell them the good, the bad, and everything else. And I says, you may think I'm a ranting old man, but I says, I'll tell you one time about how this just absolutely, kicked my butt severely, and therefore use that advice just as it's given. And I mean, the fact is right now, and I'm kind of critical of our educational system, even at higher education and everything. We've got these cereal box diploma mills online that people can never set a foot in a classroom. I saw one the other day that the Colorado State University now offers a degree in horticulture completely online. You don't have to set foot in a greenhouse, a soil field, or anything else like that. Okay, I guess if that's the way it's going to be. I just remember being in, having to go out and get in trenches and look at soils and working in greenhouses and sticking our hands inside cows' guts and everything else like this. That's how we got educated. But somehow this whole process is now online. And so people, you should be awful grateful. You're out there getting degrees, sitting in your living room, while I had to bypass on some stuff because I would have actually had to go to college and labs and stuff like that in order to get that level of education. So there's absolutely no excuse for any of that out here. And it's worked great. My kids have got master's degrees and everything else like that. And I mean, they're legitimate degrees. They've turned those degrees into good incomes and everything else. So make the most of it. You don't want to hear what, the old man was doing back here in 1979 in college, because it don't make a damn bit of difference right now and everything. So
Yep.
there needs to be some gratefulness for that out there and everything. But, we've got a lot of people that have no idea of what, a downturn in business is. And I mean, I just see that in business out here and everything. And I mean, we used to do some work for some decent sized general contractors, and it would be Davis Bacon Boldy work and everything. And these guys they're doing some jobs, and they were, they got the job done. They didn't care if they were nice to you or not or anything like that. If they'd withhold $20,000 payment on you because I didn't have a 50-cent sprinkler nozzle in place at punch list time, they would do it and everything. And that element of, I mean, whatever you want to call it, I say we've slid back into mediocrity onto a lot of stuff like this and everything. And over the last couple of years, building the property out up here and everything else, I mean, I've had some disappointments, and I've had some, some interesting situations arise. And it's just like, yeah, you can tell you've been out of this for 10 years, Dale, and it's a damn good thing you're not going back, because you probably wouldn't do real well out there in the work world today at all.
I know. I'm the same way. So, but yeah, I hope that we're kind of like the kind of people that, yeah, we may be older generation, but I don't want to be that old man that intimidates the younger people that's inquisitive enough to ask us, what was it like in 2008? What was it like during the 70s and 80s and 14% interest on your house and things like that? It's like, you remember that?
I was working as a truck driver for an oil company there over in the valley at the time, and the guy that owned it, I don't know what his thing was, but he could lie to a banker like you couldn't believe. And even in those times, in the early 80s, this guy's out borrowing 15% money to buy, $200,000 truck and trailers, which is a huge amount of money back in those days. And he was paying 15% money on it. And I thought, okay, this one, it's a good day job and everything. And I was out mowing lawns and stuff on the weekends, little landscape maintenance business going. And I go, I better build this up a little bit. I think I'm going to need it here pretty soon, And so, that's the thing people haven't seen is the failures of how stuff like that can happen. It can happen fairly rapidly. And there's a friend of mine lives not too far from me over here. I've known him for about 45 years and primarily through business. And we got to be pretty good friends. And he talking on the phone, he says, how many times have you and I reinvented ourselves over the last 45 years, and changed direction midstream and went with something else? And I go, well, a lot. I go, it's pretty good that, we were able to do that and adapt to this situation, because I just don't see that level of, there's no commitment, out there in business anymore right now. It's just kind of, survive and see what you can do. And my thing on this, people says, well, when it goes back to what, and I go, it's not going back ever to what it was. This is it. I go, it's, if we're lucky, it'll get a little bit better. And if we're real lucky, it won't get a hell of a lot worse than it is right now. And there again, that's why I'm glad I'm not in a business full time. I mean, we've had a couple of interesting experiences with the photography stuff here in the last week that again kind of triggered that. Yeah, we're a little bit older on the recognition in there. And
hey, I gotta give you a heads up real quick, is we only have about 15 seconds left.
Okay.
So I got to cut you short a little bit. I apologize, but I want to thank you so much for doing a show with me today, and I'm hoping that we can do more in the future. And when we stop the show, don't hang up or don't get off the software, because this is your first time on here. But we do need to go offline. So I want to thank everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. And thanks for watching our podcast. And yeah, nice to have you, Dale. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for watching our video. Please take the time to like, subscribe, and share our videos all over the whole wide world. Thanks.